The United Arab Emirates have officially announced that they will be exiting not just OPEC but also OPEC Plus effective May 2026. This is the mark of geopolitical shift, not just for energy, but how the economies across the world are going to play their A game. And this is where it becomes very important for us to understand that what exactly has happened. Why UAE is exiting? What is OPEC? Is it really a cartel which is manipulating prices, or it is a market assisting mechanism? And furthermore, that what lies ahead for the world. Is OPEC declining and a new order emerging, or what next? Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and in today's session we are going to understand all the questions that I have just asked and look into that what exactly is unfolding with UAE's decision to exit OPEC and OPEC Plus. Now, when we are looking at this particular news, the first thing that we need to understand here that when we are talking about these two organizations, OPEC, which is Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, and OPEC Plus, that is again Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries Plus, what exactly are these? Then only this particular news will make more sense to us. Now, when we are talking about OPEC, OPEC was founded back in 1960. And it was founded by 5 countries, which included Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. The whole idea here was to ensure that there is coordination of all the petroleum policies and also pricing. This is more important than policies because they were saying that we want to stabilize oil global prices. They were saying that we want to stabilize global oil prices. And how we will do that? Because we will control the supply, we will give quotas for supply, and based on that, revenue balance will also be decided. So, when we are looking at demand, we know the demand. Based on that, we will also control supply and decide quotas, and this is how we are going to operate. All in all, to summarize what it was the core influencing block when we are looking of the crude oil supply. And later in 2016, when we are talking about OPEC Plus emerged. Now, when we are talking about the exit, this is going to be ensured in May 2026. UAE has announced that this is going to be effective by May 2026. But what is OPEC Plus? OPEC Plus is expansion of OPEC with major non-members, such as Russia, such as Kazakhstan, such as Mexico, such as Oman. So all these countries were gradually also later included, and the whole idea to make OPEC Plus was to increase the market control, was to manage the supply shocks. Especially this came into 2016 after 2014 oil crisis that we saw. So as of now, when we look at the combined influence of OPEC Plus, we have almost 50 to 60% coverage of the global oil market. So as of now, if we are looking at OPEC, if we exclude UAE, we have 11 members. And when we look at OPEC Plus, it has these 11 members plus 10 other members. Can you tell me in the comment section which are the other countries? Can you give me the list of countries which are present in OPEC and OPEC Plus as of now? Now then, we have established what exactly is OPEC and OPEC Plus. Now let us move to understanding that why UAE is exiting such an influential bloc which controls, influences, and forms such a huge part of the global oil supply. Now, when we are trying to understand this, this has obvious direct relation to the ongoing Iran war that we are seeing, and this also shows that how oil prices remain vulnerable to extreme global shocks, and how oil is a very important geopolitical tool which can create havoc. Now, this being present because of the immediate situation of Iran war, but another thing that is intensifying is the growing difference between United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. If you remember, when we are talking about 1960 foundation of OPEC, we discussed that Saudi Arabia was one of the founding members. That means greater influence over the OPEC organization. Now, in this context, what we are trying to gain? Now, in this context, what comes in front of us is clearly that the cartel-based control and coordination that is not working for certain countries, especially UAE. They don't want to be part of it and they are shifting their gaze towards independent energy strategy, that we will decide how we want to supply our oil, how much we want to supply our oil, and when we want to do that. We don't want to be driven by a group and with the group. Now, this is where we will move to understand more about this why, how exactly this has unfolded. Now, if you're a part of OPEC, then there are quotas which are placed on you. That means how much you can put in the market, because that will decide the whole supply across the market. And based on that, there are supply limits, production limits. So, in this context, UAE saw that OPEC quotas were limiting their output. That means UAE has the possibility to increase its output, but because being part of OPEC, it cannot do that. That means the possibility of gaining more by exporting more is not going to be present. Furthermore, UAE as of now is producing 3 to 3 million barrels per day. They have taken up a target. They are aiming to produce 5 million barrels per day by 2027. That is literally next year in front of us. But till the time they are constrained by quotas, that is not possible. So first of all, they wanted to break free of the limit that was placed on us, by the limit that was placed on them, so as to ensure the growth they are aiming for, that is achievable. Another reason they are aiming for this is the fact that they want to produce more while they can. You have to understand that this is a window of opportunity that UAE has realized. In this context, you have to directly relate it to that how we are seeing energy transition across the globe, where we are moving towards renewable energy. So fossil fuel based energy and also oil are losing relevance. They are in demand as of now, but 5 years later, the transition goals are so high that they might not be in that much demand. So this is what UAE is also considering, that energy transition is happening and oil demand is going to peak soon. After that is going to see a downfall. So till the time the demand is there, we want to sell it. We want to sell more now. What we will do of these quotas if we are not able to sell it later? So we want to make more money because it is possible only now. And then comes in the rivalry, the growing differences with Saudi Arabia. And the core focus of this divergence is Yemen. Even though if you look back at 2015, both of these countries, UAE and Saudi Arabia, came together to counter the problem that emerged as Houthis in Yemen. But over the time, they have had different interests and different ways to put that and secure that interest, which has been driving this geopolitical difference. Apart from that, OPEC members, that means they have another table which they are sitting at, and another place where they differed. That was in terms of pricing strategy. And then comes the regional battleground, where influence is important and regional leadership was something that both of them were aiming for. So this rivalry has extended over one and another particular things that we have seen. Now, in this context, UAE decided that we do not want to. So, in all of this context, UAE decided we don't want to share the table with Saudi Arabia. We don't want a group to decide how much we want to sell, and we want to make best of this window of opportunity in front of us. That is why we are going to focus on strategic autonomy. That means we are going to have a flexible response as we want to, instead of OPEC deciding for us, to any global shocks that take place. Furthermore, the present time of Iran war and supply disruption has brought in the global oil supply uncertainty. Here, UAE does not know that what will happen. Furthermore, you also have to think about from a different dimension that how long-term economic diversification is taking place in UAE. UAE is already positioning itself, transitioning itself towards renewable energy, towards hydrogen, towards a non-oil economy. When they themselves have an evolving energy profile, they would want to be the decision makers of their own. And in this very context, we have understood the reasons. In this very context comes the second part, that causes understood, what will be the consequences, what will happen after this. Short term, honestly nothing. OPEC still holds a lot control over the global supply and the influence that we are talking about. But at the same time, we cannot let go of the fact that we are seeing a bigger disruption right in the region. So anything that happens to the global oil prices will be driven by this more as compared to the UAE's exit. But over the coming time, when we are talking about medium term and long term, we have to understand that UAE has done this to increase their supply, and they are going to do that. And if supply is increasing, we will see that there will be downward pressure on the crude oil prices. That means over the year, we might see that the rebalancing that OPEC was holding kind of a dominance with OPEC plus also, that will be rebalanced. The cartel mindset, that will have certain limitations, and the critical location of UAE. You have to remember, Strait of Hormuz, UAE is also located there. That can also be an important factor. So as a result, globally we are going to see that OPEC cohesion has clearly weakened. Competitive markets, competitive economies looking after their own, when we are talking about unilateralism, that is on rise. And this also marks the fact that energy transition is real. Countries are aiming for it and working out, and oil economies can already feel it. And this will also have a direct impact. Intensification of conflict between UAE as well as Saudi Arabia. But most importantly, what we need to look at, what will this do to India? Because that is where our core interest lies. When we are talking about that, the first thing that we need to consider here is that there might be some positives. Because when we are talking about reduced prices, that is definitely going to help India, because we are heavily import dependent. And in this context, it is going to reduce the pressure on current account deficit, reduce the spending of forex exchange, and this comes with import bill, then only the current account deficit, then it will also help in reducing the food inflation. And furthermore, but at the same time, we also have certain risks which come around with it. Because the Gulf politics will be heated up, and India shares good relations with both UAE and Saudi. How will that be managed? Second, short-term volatility. As I said, what will happen in coming exact time, we don't know. How will India manage that? Because we know that we are excessively dependent. And also, the supply chain disruptions. What UAE can do at Hormuz, we don't know. That is also something that India needs to be prepared on. India needs to be prepared for. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section that how India should look at it. On what side you feel you are. Has UAE done it right or UAE done it wrong? And on this note, we will be moving to discuss a very important question that I started with. Is OPEC a cartel, and is it finally declining? So when we talk about OPEC being a cartel, many economists say that because they feel they have OPEC has a lot of control and it manipulates. But at the same time, OPEC has always defended itself as a market stabilizing factor. But we cannot take away the fact that it does operate like a cartel. And with this move, UAE's exit, OPEC declining or not, but we can definitely see that we are moving from cartels to competitive economies, and we are moving from oil dominance to renewable energy, energy transition. And this particular move is the exact sign of this structural change that is happening. On this note, I'll be leaving you with some food for thought, that when we are talking about India, how come India has never been part of OPEC or OPEC plus? Let me know in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.